The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with noise. Hundreds of alien beings from across the galaxy sat in their seats talking and arguing about the day's business. The air smelled of different gases and chemicals that each species needed to breathe. Ambassador Koltar stood up from his seat. His tall, thin body shook a little as he walked to the center of the room. His people, the Vexi, had been watching space for a very long time. They were good at studying other species and learning about them. "Friends of the Council," Koltar said in a loud voice, "I need to talk to you about something very important. There is a new species that just learned how to travel between stars. They call themselves humans." The room became quiet for a moment, then many aliens started laughing and making jokes. Humans were very new to space travel. They had only been flying between stars for about 20 years. Most species in the galaxy had been doing this for thousands of years. Chairman Drachmos was a large alien with thick skin and 4 arms. He had been the leader of the council for many years. He waved one of his hands and made a deep sound that meant he was not worried. "Koltar, why should we care about such a young species?" Drachmos asked. "They barely know how to build ships that can go faster than light. What danger could they be to us?" Koltar's eyes changed color from blue to red. This happened when his people were scared or worried. "It is not their ships or weapons that worry me," he said. "It is something else about them. Something much more dangerous." Representative Morgeth was from a species that liked to fight and conquer other worlds. She had green skin and sharp teeth. She laughed loudly at Koltar's words. "What could be dangerous about such weak beings?" she asked. "Our scouts say they still use fire and explosions to power many of their machines." Koltar took a deep breath. "I have been studying their history for 3 years. I have watched recordings of their wars and conflicts. Humans have a trait that I have never seen in any other species." "And what is that?" asked Admiral Zephyr. He was the leader of the largest military fleet in the galaxy. His species was covered in hard shells like armor. He thought he was the strongest being in the room. "When humans are hurt or wronged, they do not just fight back," Koltar explained. "They hunt. They follow their enemies for years, sometimes for their whole lives. They never forget who hurt them. They never forgive. They never stop coming." The room filled with more laughter. Many aliens thought this was very funny. How could such a weak species be dangerous just because they held grudges? Koltar tried again. "Let me tell you about their wars. In one conflict on their planet, 2 groups of humans fought each other. After the war ended, some humans spent 30 years hunting down their enemies. They traveled across their whole world to find them. They never gave up. So they are stubborn," said Morgeth. "Many species are stubborn. This is different," Koltar said. His voice was getting louder and more worried. "In another war, humans chased their enemies across vast oceans. They built special ships just to follow them. They spent years tracking them down. Some humans spent their entire lives hunting just one enemy." Chairman Drachmos made the sound that meant he was getting bored. "You are talking about primitive warfare on their home planet. Space is much bigger than one world. That is exactly why they are dangerous," Koltar shouted. "Humans see space as just a bigger hunting ground. Distance means nothing to them. They have sayings that show how they think. One says, 'The mills of the gods grind slowly, but they grind exceedingly fine.' This means they believe justice always comes, even if it takes a very long time." High Admiral Zephyr stood up. His heavy armor made loud sounds as he moved. "Are you really trying to scare us with stories about patient humans? We have weapons that could destroy their entire planet. And if you use those weapons," Koltar said quietly, "the humans who survive will spend the rest of their lives hunting you down. They will follow you across the galaxy. They will never stop. They will teach their children to hunt you. Their children will teach their children. They will make it their life's purpose to find you." The room was quiet for a moment. Then Admiral Zephyr laughed so hard that his armor shook. "You want us to fear a species because they might chase us? How far could they possibly follow us in space?" "To the very edge of the galaxy," Koltar answered. "I have studied their exploration missions. When they want to find something, they never give up. They have sent small machines to the edges of their solar system that took years to arrive. They waited decades just to see what was out there." Representative Torval spoke up. His species looked like large insects with many eyes. "Even if this is true, we could simply avoid their space. The galaxy is very big. You do not understand," Koltar said. "Humans do not just defend their space. If you hurt them, they will come into your space. They will follow you home. They will learn about your family, your friends, your planets. They will never stop learning about you until they find you. Chairman Drakmos had heard enough. He stood up and used his authority to speak for the whole council. Koltar, your fears are noted, but this council believes that humans should be brought under our control before they become a real problem. We will offer them the choice to join us peacefully. If they refuse, we will make them join us by force. And if they refuse both choices? Koltar asked. Admiral Zephyr's voice was full of confidence. Then we will show them why they should fear us, not the other way around. The council voted quickly. Almost every member agreed that humans should be controlled or destroyed before they could become stronger. Only Koltar voted against the plan. As the council meeting ended, Koltar sat alone in his seat. He had failed to make them understand. Soon the galaxy would learn what he already knew. Humans were not just another species. They were hunters who never stopped hunting. The decision was made. The council would send their strongest fleet to human space. They would demand surrender. If humans refused, they would be destroyed as an example to other young species. Koltar went back to his ship that night, knowing that the council had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had chosen to hurt the one species that would never forgive them for it. The warning had been given and ignored. Soon the galaxy would learn about human persistence the hard way. Captain Lee Hyun stood on the bridge of the UES Perseverance and looked out at the stars. His ship was huge, bigger than any building on Earth. Inside were 50,000 people, men, women, children, and elderly folks. They were all traveling to a new world called Kepler 442b to build a new city they would call New Seoul. Lee Hyun had been a captain in the Korean Navy before he joined the space program. He was a calm man who always thought carefully before making decisions. His crew trusted him completely. They had been traveling through space for 8 months and would reach their new home in just 2 more weeks. "Captain," said Navigation Officer Yoon Taek from his station, "we are now entering the neutral zone. No problems detected on our sensors." The neutral zone was an area of space that did not belong to any alien government. Human ships often traveled through it because it was safe and peaceful. No one was supposed to fight in the neutral zone. Chief Engineer Park Min-ho was working on the engines in the lower part of the ship. He was a smart man who could fix anything that broke. The Perseverance needed constant care because it was carrying so many people such a long distance. "All systems are running perfectly, Captain," Park Min-ho reported over the communication system. "The families in sections C and D are having a celebration tonight. The children are very excited about seeing their new world." Dr. Kim Nari was in the medical section taking care of a pregnant woman who would give birth soon. She had delivered 12 babies during their journey. Each new baby was a symbol of hope for their future colony. "Captain Hyun," she called over the radio. "Mrs. Park is doing well. Her baby should arrive within the next few days. She wants to name him after our new planet." Captain Hyun smiled. This was why he loved his job. These people were not just passengers. They were pioneers building humanity's future among the stars. They carried with them seeds to grow food, machines to build cities, and most importantly, the hope of making a better life. The ship also carried something very precious in its storage areas. Scientists on Earth had put genetic samples of every animal and plant they could find. They also brought art, music, books, and movies, everything that made humans special. If something bad ever happened to Earth, these people could rebuild human civilization on their new world. Suddenly, alarms started ringing all over the ship. Yoon Taek looked at his screens with wide eyes. "Captain, ships are coming out of hyperspace. They are surrounding us." Yoon ran to the main screen and saw 12 large warships appearing around them. The ships were dark and covered with weapons. He had never seen designs like these before. "Are they council ships?" Hyun asked. "No, sir," Yoon Taek said, his voice shaking. "The computer does not recognize these ships, but they are definitely military vessels." Captain Hyun immediately began sending messages on all radio frequencies. "This is Captain Lee Hyun of the UES Perseverance. We are a civilian colony ship carrying families and children. We are traveling to our new home planet. We have no weapons and pose no threat to anyone. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." For a long moment there was only silence. Then a harsh voice came over the radio. It sounded angry and full of hate. "Human vessel, this is Admiral Zephyr of the Dominion Fleet. You will shut down your engines and prepare to be destroyed." Captain Hyun could not believe what he heard. "Admiral, we are civilians. We have children on board. Surely there has been some mistake. There is no mistake, the alien voice replied. The Council has decided that humans are too dangerous to be allowed to spread across the galaxy. You will be eliminated as an example to others. Park Min-ho's voice came over the radio from the engine room. Captain, they are charging their weapons. All of them. Raise our shields, Captain Hyun ordered. But he knew their shields were only meant to protect against space rocks and radiation. They could not stop military weapons, please. Captain Hyun sent another message. We have 50,000 innocent people here. 12,000 of them are children. We are not military. We just want to build a peaceful colony. Admiral Zephyr's response was to open fire. The first blast hit the front of the ship and shook everything inside. People screamed as they were thrown to the floor. Lights went out in many sections. Shields are down, Park Min-ho reported. We have hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. Dr. Kim Nari's voice came over the radio, full of panic. Medical emergency. We have people hurt on every deck. The children's section has been hit. Captain Hyun tried to think of a way to save his people. Yoon-taek, can we reach the hyperspace jump point? No, sir, they have us completely surrounded. They are targeting our engines. Another blast hit the ship. This time it was much worse. Entire sections lost air and power. Captain Hyun could hear people crying and calling for help over the radio. Prepare the escape pods, he ordered. Get the children off first, but as the first escape pods launched, the alien ships began shooting at them too. Captain Hyun watched in horror as the small pods carrying families were destroyed one by one. They are targeting the escape pods, Yoon-taek shouted. They are not trying to capture us. They want everyone dead. Park Min-ho's voice was weak now. Captain, the main reactor is failing. We have maybe 5 minutes before total power loss. Dr. Kim Nari sent her final report. Captain, we have lost the children's medical bay. Most of the families in Section D are gone. The pregnant woman, she did not make it. Captain Hyun realized this was the end. These aliens were not interested in surrender or negotiation. They wanted to murder every human on the ship, including the babies and children. With shaking hands, he activated the emergency transmission system. This would send a message directly to Earth using quantum technology. It would take 6 months to arrive, but Earth would eventually know what happened. This is Captain Lee Hyun of the UES Perseverance, he said into the recorder. We are under attack by alien warships. They call themselves the Dominion Fleet, led by Admiral Zephyr. They have refused our surrender and are killing civilians, including children. Another blast shook the ship. Hyun could hear the metal breaking apart around him. 50,000 people are dying here. They are targeting our escape pods. They are murdering families trying to flee. This is not an act of war, this is genocide. The lights went out on the bridge. Emergency power would only last a few more minutes. Tell our families on Earth that we loved them. Tell them we died trying to build a better future for humanity. And tell them. Hyun paused as another explosion rocked the ship. Tell them to make these murderers pay for what they have done here. Make them pay for every child they killed today. The final explosion tore the Perseverance apart. Captain Hyun, his crew, and all 50,000 civilians died in the cold darkness of space. The last thing the ship's computers recorded was the laughter of Admiral Zephyr over the radio. 6 months later, the quantum message reached Earth. When humans heard what had happened to the Perseverance, everything changed. The galaxy was about to learn what Ambassador Coulthard had tried to warn them about. Humans never forgot, and they never forgave. President Kim Soo-young stood in front of the United Earth Assembly. Behind her, a giant screen showed the faces and names of every person who died on the Perseverance. The list moved slowly, showing families, children, elderly people, and newborn babies. 50,000 faces that would never be forgotten. The assembly hall was completely silent. Every representative from every nation on Earth watched as the names scrolled by. Some were crying. Others sat with faces full of anger. All of them understood that something terrible had happened. Ladies and gentlemen, President Kim said in a quiet voice, 6 months ago, we sent 50,000 of our people to build a new home among the stars. They were families. They were teachers, doctors, engineers, and farmers. They carried with them the seeds of human civilization. She paused and looked at the faces on the screen. Admiral Zephyr and his Dominion fleet murdered them all. They destroyed escape pods filled with children. They laughed as families died trying to flee. The president turned back to face the assembly. This was not an act of war. Wars are fought between soldiers. This was the murder of innocent civilians. This was genocide. General Choi Dong-ho stood up from his seat. He was the head of Earth's military forces and had spent his whole career preparing to defend humanity. But he had never imagined they would need to defend against something like this. The alien species think they can murder our people and face no consequences, General Choi said. They believe space is too big for us to reach them. They believe we will forget and move on. He walked to the center of the hall where everyone could see him clearly. They are wrong on every count. Today we create the Deep Space Pursuit Command. Its mission is simple. Find every being responsible for the Perseverance massacre and bring them to justice. Representative Lee Jin-hee from the Korean district raised her hand. General, how can we possibly chase alien fleets across the galaxy? We barely have enough ships to patrol our own solar system. We will build new ships, General Choi answered. Not warships designed for battle, but pursuit ships designed for one purpose: to hunt across vast distances without stopping. Over the next 3 hours, the assembly heard the detailed plan. Earth would spend every resource necessary to build a fleet unlike anything ever created. These ships would not carry heavy weapons or thick armor. Instead, they would carry advanced sensors, long-range fuel systems, and life support that could keep crews alive for decades. Dr. Shin Yoon-hai was the lead scientist on the project. Her daughter Minju had been one of the children killed on the Perseverance. When she spoke to the assembly, her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with determination. We have made breakthroughs in quantum tracking technology, she explained. Every ship leaves traces in hyperspace and like fingerprints. We can follow these traces across thousands of light years. Distance will not protect the murderers. The ships that began construction in Earth's orbital shipyards were unlike anything humans had built before. The Nemesis-class pursuit vessels were long and thin, built for speed and endurance rather than fighting. They could operate for 30 years without returning to port. Their crews would work in shifts, some sleeping in cryogenic freezers while others stayed awake to continue the hunt. Admiral Song Mirai was chosen to lead the first pursuit fleet. She had been captain of the exploration ship UES Intrepid before the massacre. When she heard about the Perseverance, she immediately volunteered for the pursuit mission. I want people who understand loss, she told the recruitment officers. I want people who will not give up when the hunt takes years. I want people who can be patient, but never forget why we are out there. The crews selected for the pursuit ships were carefully chosen. They included former police detectives who had spent years tracking criminals. They included scientists who had dedicated their lives to long research projects. They included soldiers who had lost family members in the massacre. Commander Oh Jae-won was selected as the captain of the lead ship, UES Relentless. His grandfather had been a famous hunter in the Korean mountains who could track tigers for weeks without losing their trail. Oh Jae-won had inherited that patience and skill for tracking. My grandfather taught me that hunting is not about speed, Oh Jae-won told his crew on their first day. It is about never giving up. A good hunter can follow a trail that is days old. A great hunter can follow a trail that is months old. We are going to follow trails that are years old. The most important breakthrough came from Dr. Shin Yoon-hai's quantum research team. They discovered that they could track not just ships, but the specific biological signatures of the aliens inside them. Every species had unique quantum markers in their brain patterns. We are not just hunting ships, Dr. Shin explained to Admiral Song. We are hunting the specific individuals who murdered our people. Admiral Zephyr cannot escape by changing ships. We will know his quantum signature anywhere in the galaxy. The pursuit fleet launched 2 years after the massacre. 12 Nemesis-class ships left Earth's orbit, heading toward the last known location of the Dominion fleet. The lead ship, UES Relentless, carried a special memorial, a piece of metal from the Perseverance wreckage. As the ships entered hyperspace, Admiral Song sent a message to all crew members. We are not going to war. We are going hunting. Some of you will spend years in space before we find our targets. Some of you may spend decades, but we will find them. She paused and looked at the piece of Perseverance metal mounted on her bridge. We carry with us the memory of 50,000 innocent people. We carry the hope of their families on Earth. We will not return until justice is done. The pursuit began with the tracking of quantum signatures left by the Dominion fleet. Human scientists had learned to read the traces left in hyperspace like hunters reading footprints in mud. The trail was 6 months old, but it was still there. Commander Oh Jae-won studied the sensor readings with the same patience his grandfather had used to track animals. They went toward the Orion Arm, he reported to Admiral Song. 3 different ship types, 12 vessels total. They tried to split up to confuse anyone following them. Can we track them all? Admiral Song asked. Yes, ma'am, OJ-1 replied. Each ship leaves a unique signature. We know exactly which ship Admiral Zephyr is on. We will follow his signature to the edge of the galaxy if necessary. The human pursuit fleet spread out across space, each ship following a different trail. They moved slowly and carefully, using their advanced sensors to track quantum signatures that no other species had ever detected. On Earth, families gathered every week to watch updates from the pursuit fleet. Children who had lost parents on the Perseverance grew up knowing that somewhere in space, humans were hunting the ones who killed their families. The galaxy was about to learn what Ambassador Koltar had tried to warn them about. Humans did not just seek revenge. They pursued justice with the patience of apex predators, and they would never ever stop coming. Admiral Zephyr stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Pride, and stared at the tactical display. For 18 months, the same 3 human ships had been following him across the galaxy. No matter where he went, no matter how many times he changed course, they kept coming. How are they still behind us? He demanded from his navigation officer. We have jumped through 7 different hyperspace routes. We changed our fuel type 3 times. We even destroyed our identification transponders. Navigation Officer Krell looked at his instruments with confusion. Sir, I do not understand it either. We should have lost them months ago. No species has ever been able to track ships across such distances. Meanwhile, aboard the UES Relentless, Commander OJ-1 studied the pursuit data with the calm patience of a master hunter. His screens showed quantum trail markers that stretched across 3 star systems. To him, they were as clear as footprints in snow. They are getting desperate, he told his sensor officer, Lieutenant Park Sang-woo. Look at these course changes. They are no longer following efficient routes. They are just trying to confuse us. Lieutenant Park had been tracking the Dominion's Pride for so long that he knew its quantum signature better than his own heartbeat. Sir, they tried to mask their trail by flying through the radiation field of a dying star. It did not work. Our new sensors can detect their biological markers even through stellar interference. The human pursuit had become the talk of the galaxy. Other alien species watched in amazement as the small human ships continued to follow the mighty Dominion fleet. Many had expected the humans to give up after a few months. Instead, they seemed to become more determined with each passing day. Admiral Zephyr tried everything he could think of to escape. He flew into asteroid fields hoping the humans would lose his trail among the rocks. He traveled through pirate space, thinking the criminals might attack the pursuing ships. He even entered the territory of hostile alien empires, believing they would stop the humans. Nothing worked. The human ships followed him through asteroid fields using sensors that could track quantum signatures through solid rock. They flew through pirate space without slowing down, sending messages that said, "We are pursuing murderers of civilians. Stand aside or be considered accomplices." Most pirates decided to avoid conflict with beings who showed such determination. When Zephyr entered the territory of the hostile Krag Empire, he was sure the humans would be forced to turn back. The Krag were known for attacking any foreign ships that entered their space. Instead, Admiral Song Mirai sent a direct message to the Krag Emperor. "We are tracking the beings who murdered 50,000 human civilians, including 12,000 children. We have no quarrel with your empire. Allow us to pass, and we will leave your space as soon as our target is captured." The Krag Emperor, after hearing about the massacre of children, gave the humans permission to continue their pursuit. Even violent alien races understood that some crimes could not be forgiven. Dr. Shin Yunhai had continued developing new tracking technology from her laboratory on Earth. Her grief over her daughter's death had driven her to make breakthrough after breakthrough. She sent new sensor upgrades to the pursuit fleet. Every few months, we can now track individual brain patterns from a distance of 50 light years, she reported to Admiral Song during one of their quantum communication sessions. Admiral Zephyr cannot escape by changing ships. We will know his specific neural signature anywhere in the galaxy. Commander OJ-1 received these upgrades and immediately put them to use. The hunt became more precise with each improvement. Where before they had been following the trail of ships, now they were following the trail of specific individuals. Target confirmed, Lieutenant Park reported during their 15th month of pursuit. Admiral Zephyr is definitely aboard the Dominion's Pride. We also have neural locks on 12 of his senior officers. The stress of constant pursuit was beginning to affect the alien crew. Several of Zephyr's officers had requested transfers to other ships. Others had started showing signs of mental breakdown from the pressure of knowing they could never escape. Captain Torval of the destroyer Swift Death sent a message to Admiral Zephyr. "Sir, my crew is falling apart. They know the humans will never stop coming. Some of them want to surrender. Anyone who talks about surrender will be executed," Zephyr replied. But privately, he was beginning to understand what Ambassador Koltar had tried to warn the Council about. These humans were not like other species. They did not get tired. They did not forget. They just kept coming. The pursuit led through the most dangerous parts of the galaxy. The humans followed their targets into the dead zone, where radiation from ancient supernovas made navigation nearly impossible. They tracked them through the void between, an empty region of space where most species feared to travel. At each location, the humans left behind monitoring stations, small automated platforms that would watch for the quantum signatures of their targets. Slowly, they were building a network across the galaxy that would make it impossible for anyone to hide. "Sir," reported Science Officer Vex to Admiral Zephyr, "the humans have placed sensor stations at every major hyperspace junction in this sector. They are creating a tracking network that covers thousands of light years." Zephyr realized with growing horror that the humans were not just chasing him. They were changing how space travel worked. Their pursuit had become so advanced that they could track any ship anywhere in the galaxy. The end came near a remote mining station. In the Outer Rim, the Dominion's pride had been damaged in its latest attempt to escape through a dangerous nebula. Its engines were failing and life support was running low. "Sir," reported his engineer, "we need to stop for repairs. The ship cannot continue without maintenance." Admiral Zephyr knew this was the moment he had been dreading. The human ships were only 6 hours behind them. If they stopped for repairs, they would be caught. "How long for basic repairs?" he asked. "At least 20 hours, sir." Zephyr looked at the tactical display showing the approaching human ships. After 18 months of running, he finally understood what the humans were. They were not just another species seeking revenge. They were apex predators who had turned pursuit into an art form. "Send a message to the human ships," he told his communications officer. Tell them we want to negotiate." The response came from Admiral Song Mirai within minutes. "Admiral Zephyr, you murdered 50,000 innocent civilians. You targeted escape pods filled with children. There will be no negotiation. You will surrender and face trial, or you will be taken by force." As the UES Relentless and its escort ships closed in on the mining station, Admiral Zephyr made one final attempt to escape. He transferred himself and his senior staff to a small shuttle and attempted to flee while the humans were focused on his flagship. It did not work. Commander, Jawan had been tracking Zephyr's specific neural signature for too long to be fooled by such a simple trick. "Target is in the shuttle," he reported to Admiral Song. "Pursuing now." The shuttle was faster than the human ships, but it could not maintain high speed for long. After 6 hours, its fuel began to run low. After 12 hours, it was forced to land on a dead planet in an unnamed system. Admiral Zephyr sat in the crashed shuttle and looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, human ships were coming for him. He had run across 3 star systems, through the most dangerous regions of space for 18 months, and still, they had never stopped coming. The last message he sent was to the Galactic Council. Koltar was right. Never attack the humans. They will pursue you forever. 3 hours later, human Marines from the UES Justice surrounded the crashed shuttle. Admiral Zephyr and his officers surrendered without a fight. The pursuit was finally over, but around the galaxy, other human ships were still hunting. The massacre of the Perseverance had involved dozens of ships and hundreds of individuals. The humans intended to find every single one of them. The galaxy was learning that humans did not just seek justice, they pursued it with the patience and determination of born hunters. 7 years had passed since the massacre of the Perseverance. Admiral Zephyr sat in a small bunker on a dead world at the edge of the galaxy, surrounded by the last few members of his crew who had remained loyal to him. They had been running for so long that some had lost their minds from the constant fear. The bunker was hidden deep underground on a planet that did not appear on most star charts. They had chosen this place because it seemed impossible for anyone to find them here. The planet had no resources, no life, and no reason for anyone to visit. "Sir," whispered Communications Officer Grix, his voice hollow from years of stress. "Long-range sensors detect ships approaching. Human configuration. They will arrive in 6 hours." Zephyr looked at the tactical display with empty eyes. The approaching fleet was led by the UES Justice, commanded by Admiral Song Mirai. Behind her flew 24 pursuit ships, each one representing years of human dedication to hunting down every person responsible for the massacre. "How did they find us here?" Zephyr asked, though he already knew the answer would not matter. "This system is not even named. There are no hyperspace routes leading here." Science Officer Vex, now thin and weak from years of poor food and constant stress, provided the explanation. "Sir, we have been monitoring their communications. The humans have built a network of sensor stations throughout the galaxy. They have tracking posts at every major hyperspace junction, monitoring every ship movement." He paused and looked at his instruments with the face of a being who had given up hope. "They have turned half the galaxy into their hunting ground. Every alien government now reports suspicious ship movements to them. Every trade route is watched. Every hiding place is known." The final message came directly from Admiral Song Mirai. Her voice was calm and professional, but it carried the weight of 7 years of patient pursuit. "Admiral Zephyr, this is Admiral Song Mirai of the United Earth Fleet. You are surrounded. You have nowhere left to run. You will surrender and face trial for the murder of 50,000 innocent humans, including 12,000 children." Zephyr thought about fighting, but he knew it was hopeless. His few remaining ships were old and damaged. His crew was exhausted and broken. The humans had fresh ships, advanced weapons, and most importantly, they had never stopped believing in their cause. "What happens if we surrender?" he asked over the radio. "You will be taken to the Galactic Council chambers for trial," Admiral Song replied. "You will face charges under both Earth law and Galactic law. The evidence against you is complete and overwhelming." Zephyr looked around at his remaining officers. They all nodded their agreement. After 7 years of running, they were ready for it to end. The trial took place in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, the same place where Ambassador Koltar had tried to warn them about human persistence years earlier. Representatives from hundreds of alien species filled the seats to watch the proceedings. Admiral Song Mirai stood before the council and read the charges in a clear, strong voice. The accused systematically murdered 50,000 civilian humans who posed no military threat. They targeted escape pods containing families and children. They showed no mercy to non-combatants and laughed as innocent people died. She turned to look directly at Admiral Zephyr, who sat in the defendant's chair wearing simple prison clothes. According to both Earth law and the Galactic Convention on the Protection of Civilians, these crimes constitute genocide and crimes against sentient beings. The evidence was presented piece by piece. Recordings from the Perseverance showed the aliens refusing surrender offers and deliberately targeting escape pods. Communication logs revealed Admiral Zephyr ordering his ships to leave no survivors. Video evidence showed alien crew members laughing as human families died in space. Chairman Drachmos, who had dismissed Koltar's warnings years earlier, now sat quietly and listened to the testimony. He had learned too late that the humans were not just another species to be bullied or controlled. Ambassador Koltar was called as a witness. He walked slowly to the center of the chamber, the same place where he had tried to warn the council years before. "I told this council that humans would pursue their enemies forever," he said in a quiet voice. "I warned that distance and time meant nothing to them. I begged you not to attack them." He looked directly at Chairman Drachmos. "You laughed at my warnings. You said humans were too weak to be dangerous. Now you have seen what happens when you murder their children." The defense lawyer, an alien attorney assigned to represent Admiral Zephyr, tried to argue that the attack had been a legitimate military action. Admiral Song responded with recordings that proved the Perseverance had been clearly identified as a civilian vessel carrying families. "This was not a military engagement," she told the council. "This was the cold-blooded murder of non-combatants, including pregnant women and newborn babies." When Chairman Drachmos asked about the 7-year pursuit, Admiral Song's response became legendary throughout the galaxy. "Mr. Chairman, humans have a saying, 'Justice delayed is justice denied.' But we also have another saying that every species in this galaxy should remember. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. She paused and looked at each council member individually. We will always pursue those who harm our innocent. Time means nothing to us. Distance means nothing to us. We will follow murderers to the heat death of the universe if necessary, because that is who we are. The trial lasted 3 weeks. During that time, other human pursuit fleets brought in more defendants. Captain Torval of the destroyer Swift Death was captured hiding in a criminal syndicate. Commander Morgex was found leading a mercenary company in the Outer Territories. One by one, every person involved in the massacre was brought to justice. The sentences were announced by a joint tribunal of human and alien judges. Admiral Zephyr was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. His officers received sentences ranging from 50 to 100 years. But the real impact of the trial was not the punishment of the criminals. It was the message sent to every government and military force in the galaxy. A new rule emerged from the proceedings, spoken quietly in military briefings and diplomatic meetings across space. Never harm human civilians. Never target their children. Never think you can run far enough or fast enough to escape them. The UES Perseverance Memorial Station was built at the exact location where the colony ship had been destroyed. It was a beautiful structure made of crystal and metal that could be seen from light years away. Inside were the names, faces, and stories of all 50,000 victims. But the real memorial was not a building. It was the knowledge throughout the galaxy that some crimes could never be forgotten, and some hunters would never stop coming. Admiral Song Mirai stood on the memorial station's observation deck, looking out at the stars where the Perseverance had died. Around her, the names of the victims were displayed in holographic light. Families, children, elderly people, all of them remembered. We kept our promise, she said quietly to the memorial wall. Every person responsible has been found. Every criminal has faced justice. You can rest now. In Pursuit Fleet Command Centers throughout human space, a simple motto was inscribed on every wall. Remember the Perseverance. Pursue justice. Never rest. The galaxy had learned too late what Ambassador Koltar had tried to tell them. Humans were not just another species seeking revenge or conquest. They were the species that would follow you across the universe for justice. And in the deepest parts of space, where criminals and tyrants planned their next moves, a new fear had taken hold. The fear that somewhere out there, patient human hunters were watching and waiting. The fear that no matter how far you ran or how well you hid, eventually you would hear the words that had become humanity's promise to the galaxy. We are coming for you, and we will never stop. The warning had been given and ignored. The price had been paid in full. And the galaxy would never forget the lesson it had learned about human persistence. Justice, like the humans who pursued it, was inevitable.